Hey, what's going on, positive people? It's B plus. Thank you guys for stopping by and checking out another live. I randomly did this last week, and it was fun. It was different. It is definitely a different muscle. It's outside of my comfort zone, but I figured let's put myself through some more torture. So I always had an idea of having some type of show where I just kind of cover different things that are interesting to me within the Christian world or the Christian hip hop world. Just because I feel like there's a lot of negative, especially on the Christian YouTube circuit. I guess a lot of exposed videos, a lot of calling people out, um, and I guess we need some good news. We need some positive news. And if you know me, B plus is my DJ name. I have a radio show entitled the Be Positive Music Show. I'm all about positivity. So if I had a show, it would be called SPN. SPN, some positive news. Kind of a play off of ESPN because I'm a big sports fan. But I would call it SPN. Also, it's a play off of Jim from The Office. John, last name starts with a K. He had a show during the pandemic called SGN, some good news, something like that. Just because it was a sad time during during the quarantine and the pandemic and all that stuff. So I'm just kind of killing a little bit of time before I get started because not that I'm expecting a lot of people to show up, but I do want to give a little bit of time before we go ahead and hop in. So I'm going to hop over here and check a few things. Once again, if you're just joining, I am B plus. I am a Christian hip hop DJ. I host a show on Holy Culture Radio and Sirius XM channel 140 each and every Saturday at 6 p.m. Hold on, where's my thing at? I can just put my ticker on here. There it goes. So all my details are right there. But yeah, I host a Christian hip hop radio show. I've been a fan of Christian hip hop since 1999. Oh, well, that was the year I fell in love with it. 1995 is when I first heard it. Shout out to my big bro. Hopefully it'll be sweet to see him stop in the chat. So let me pull that up. Hey, SPN. Hey, shout out to my mom in the building. I like SPN. I like it too, Mom. Thank you so much for stopping through. Let's keep. Do I want to kill a little bit more time? Yes. I would like to kill some more time. So I guess, and I think it'll maybe tie into a little bit of the conversation today, just because I'm a little bit of what I would say a late bloomer as it relates to hopping on YouTube. I know I don't look like it, but I'm 40. And I don't like the camera. I don't like talking into this mic. I love being creative, but I love doing creative things, but then sliding in the background and letting other talent kind of take the stage and do their thing. So have a lot of ideas. A lot of them just stay right here on my phone, or I pass them off to other creatives. I pass off a lot of different ideas to different Christian hip hop YouTubers as well, because I have an idea, but I don't think I may not have the personality to pull it off sometimes. But just hearing me going live is a step outside the box. It's pushing me to do something new and creative, and also just kind of going into this topic of mental health, because a lot of it is just bad thinking, stinking thinking that's kind of stopped me from doing a lot of different things. So I figure, you know what? I have the technology to pull off and do some of these things. So let's go ahead and do it. So I see I have 3 people viewing, a few people on Twitter. What up to my people on Twitter? I'm not calling it X. If you are on Twitter and you have the ability to go over to YouTube and watch, that will be dope, because as you leave your comments, I can interact with them here. I'm also live on Twitch, so I don't have anybody watching there, but I have a few people on Twitter, and shout out to my mom checking us out over on YouTube. So do I want to go ahead and get started? You know what? I do. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So like I said, last week was a very random idea to hop on and go live. And today was a little bit more calculated. I was at the car shop, getting the cars looked at, checked on, and I had the idea. I was like, I should just go live and talk about what I want to talk about, because I thought about finding a way to make a clever video and kind of editing it and then posting it. But a lot of work goes into like editing a video, and then you have to you have to edit it, you have to produce the whole thing and add a whole bunch of stuff to it and then upload it. I figured it was fun last week, a little bit of torture last week to go live, but so let's just go live and just kind of do it like this. So um I think that's enough stalling. And let's go ahead and hop into kind of what I want to talk about. So I guess going back, this actually goes back 2 weeks. It goes back 2 weeks. And it's also in the thumbnail, John MacArthur. So actually, what I want to do is I'm gonna do this live for you guys here right now. I want to play just so you guys have the context, just so I'm not saying anything kind of out of turn here. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can see exactly what's going on. So, so I'm going over, I'm on my Twitter now. So let me switch this around. All right, boom. So John MacArthur made a comment a few weeks back. John MacArthur, and he made a comment about PTSD, OCD, things like that. So, so this is the comment. I want you guys to hear it really quickly, and then I'll go from there. So you guys check this out.
There's no such thing as PTSD. There's no such thing as OCD. There's no such thing as ADHD. Those are noble lies. To basically give the excuse to, in the end of the day, to medicate people.
So actually, I'll stop it right there because I don't want to spend too much time giving that ears. But and this is probably not something that I thought I was going to say. In his defense, I think his beef is a lot with medicine. Not necessarily. Well, he says he doesn't feel like they're real, and I'm just kind of like, how can you not think that those things are real? But it seems like he's really kind of angry with like the medical system and like medication, and feels like this is just all this stuff is just a ploy to get our kids on drugs. But he's just really dismissive of like mental health, and I see that a lot in the church. So that was going back maybe 2 weeks ago. So let me get some dates. Let me get some dates right, because it'll make sense why I was tripping out at church this past Sunday. So today is the 17th. So I remember seeing that probably on the 7th, so about 10 days ago. And then last week, I went to go record my radio show, the Be Positive Music Show, on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM channel 140. This is my channel, so I plug as I please. So I was recording and planning my show on the 17th, on the 10th, a week ago, and I went ahead and I recorded my show on the 11th. We're going to put a pin in that, and I'm not going to tell you guys what I talked about on the 11th, but I want to jump to the 12th. On Sunday morning, I'm sitting. I would say go old school and say sitting in the pew, but I was sitting in the chair in church, and as my pastor, I go to Embassy City Church here in Irving, Texas. My pastor is Dr. Tim Rivers. Shout out to him. I'm just loving to see his leadership and his growth. He's been the pastor there for about a year and about 5 months. So, and once again, for you guys watching on Twitter, if you have the ability to go over to YouTube and interact there, that would be dope, because I'll be able to see your comments and all that good stuff. So, and I see Abby on here. She said, "Sorry, John," with the thumbs down emoji. So, thank you, Abby, for being here. So, okay. So as I continue, oh, I see that you can actually leave comments on Twitter. See, I'm learning this as I go. So, okay, so I can bring in comments regardless of where they come from. So, but still go over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel. So, sorry if you watched last week, ADD is a real thing, and you're going to hear about that a little bit later in the show. So, let's keep going. So, so I'm sitting there in church, and I'm just kind of tripping because I'm like, either the Holy Spirit is doing his thing, or Tim Rivers listens to my podcast or my radio show, which I don't think he does. I don't think he even knows who I am, which is completely dope, which is completely fine. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the message, and I'm like, this is crazy, because he's talking about mental health. And with that being said, I'm actually going to switch gears here again, and I just want to play a few snippets from the message. So what I ended up doing was I ended up grabbing the message from last week at church and finding my favorite parts of the message that spoke to the radio show that I did on the 11th. So again, this is on the 12th, the day after my show. So let's go ahead and hop into the snippets from Tim Rivers' message. Let's do it.
Here's what we're going to do as a church. We will not be silent on the topic of mental health. We won't do it. We're not going to over spiritualize things. We believe in the spirit. We believe in healing. We believe in all those things. But we also know that there is a physical attack that can happen. There's physical things that can happen. There's biological things that can happen. And we're not going to sit there and over spiritualize things and cause people more damage. My title for today is...
And actually, I didn't show it there, but the passage of scripture that he chose for this particular sermon, actually, it's this way. For this particular sermon is 1 Samuel chapter 1, and it's picking up with the birth of, oh my gosh, Samuel. Yeah, Samuel. So it's picking up there, and so I just want to give that for context. And then also in the description below is this full message. So if you like what you hear, or if you're challenged by what you hear, I encourage you to go check that out. So let's keep going.
Don't just pray about it. Don't just pray about it. I'm going to get into somebody's Kool-Aid today. Has anybody ever heard the phrase, just pray about it? If you've been in church for any length of time, you undoubtedly have heard somebody tell you, just pray about it.
Absolutely.
You know how much spiritual, emotional, and mental damage has been done or perpetuated by these 4 words? Just pray about it.
And I know that just hearing that, like, spiritual and emotional damage because you're telling somebody to pray about something may sound a little shocking and jarring to people, but it's true. It's true. And I think that Dr. Tim does a dope job of just kind of explaining that. So I'll try to stop pausing it, but I want to pause it at certain times just so you guys can understand when I actually play the snippet from last week's radio show of why I was just tripping so much during this message. So let's let Dr. Tim continue.
Generally speaking, when people say this, it is in response to you pouring out your soul to them. You've held something in, you're dealing with a situation, it's becoming heavy, it's becoming weighted, and so you muster up the bravery.
I'm telling you guys, I keep pausing it, but it's going to make sense. I promise you, if I can use a term that Ruslan often says, if you stick around, I promise you, I'm going to button it all up. It's going to make sense.
To go talk to somebody, someone that you feel like is a spiritual voice, somebody that has spiritual maturity, and you go and you tell them, hey, I'm dealing with this situation, I'm going through this struggle, I'm going through this problem, and then when you tell them at the end of you spilling your guts to them, you hope that there's going to be some good feedback, there's going to be some directives, and the only thing they hit you with in your moment of vulnerability is, well, let's just pray about it. And you walk off feeling more vulnerable and exposed than you did before, as if you hadn't been praying about it. Now here's the thing. Generally speaking, the reason why people respond that way is because they don't have an answer. Mm-hmm. They over-spiritualize everything.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves. I call it spray on Jesus. It's like you get like a little mist bottle and like you just mist people. Like you just mist them with some water and just tell them something super spiritual, or like they're going through something. Well, you know that all things work together. Yes. And X, Y, and Z just happened. It's like, it's so dismissive when we do that. And it's like, it's a normal occurrence. And I agree that these are the reasons why sometimes we have a lack of empathy or understanding around these issues. So let's let Dr. Tim continue.
Or they're dealing with something themselves and you struck a chord, and because they don't want to deal with their own issue, they deflect and tell you, just go pray about it. And really what they're trying to do is dismiss having to deal with your issues. If you grew up in an environment where it's a just pray about it environment, it becomes increasingly more damaging to your spirit, because what ends up happening is you are taught that just praying about it is the answer. So you keep going back and back to God, back to God, back to God, until you stop believing in the power of prayer. How many have ever dealt with an issue that you keep asking God about and it hasn't changed? Thank you. I got about 2 or 3 of us. Isn't it amazing that we're more comfortable hearing people share their struggle with lower back pain than we are when somebody says, I'm struggling with anxiety and depression? We will call.
It's so true. It's so true. Like in a heartbeat, it's like we hear people talk about a different ailment, and we immediately, like, actually, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna let Dr. Tim say
All
it.
people down to the altar to get prayer for their shoulder popping, their knees buckling, their hip being out of place. We will call people down to the altar for ingrown toenails and cavities and abscesses. And we believe for healing. But if somebody says, hey, I'm dealing with anxiety and depression, the church seems to respond with, well, you just go pray about that. Why are we okay with people praying for healing in their back and still going to physical therapy, but struggle with the idea that someone could pray for healing of their mental health and still go to a counselor? I've seen people
It's true.
say that they have a real issue, and you look at their life history and you know they grew up in a dramatic situation, and those same people, 2 or 3 people will gather around them, have them shaking in the altar for 2 hours, when you probably could address it in 1 hour in a counseling session.
And that's true too. And I want to piggyback on one little thing. I want to piggyback on one more thing, just because it's not always a traumatic situation. Sometimes it could be like your chemical balance. It can just be it could be like little tiny small pebbles that over time become like a big thing. I thought that I'll say that Swoop, on his latest album We Go On, he has a snippet by Pastor John O, just talking about how like tiny compound, like he was talking about like compound interest, or like how something can compound. And sometimes that can happen around mental issues that we're having. It can happen around grief. It can happen around a lot of different areas. And it's just not traumatic things that causes mental health issues. And yeah, Abby just said it right here. She just said it here. Sometimes it's genetics. And I don't know why sometimes believers feel like if you bring in science or any type of thing like that, we kind of bug out a little bit, and we act like we can't, like science and God can't coexist. Am I saying that right? I think I'm saying it right. That's why I don't like going live. But like God created science. It doesn't have to coexist. Like God made it. Like this is the way our bodies are wired. So let's keep going.
We have to remember that we are both spiritual and natural beings. We have to remember that we have thoughts that are intangible, but we also have a brain that is tangible. We have to remember that God didn't just make us floating beings, but we have an actual body. We have a physical makeup. We have biology. We have flesh and bones. We have a brain. We have chemicals that flow through our body. And sometimes you have a chemical imbalance, or you have a surge of certain chemicals in your body because of certain traumatic and dramatic experiences in your life that, guess what, you need to address in addition with prayer. I'm going to help somebody today.
So that is what I heard that was on the 11th. Am I getting that right? Make sure I get my dates right. So that was on the 12th. So that was on Sunday morning, the 12th. So I'm sitting there next to my son and my wife in church, and I'm just like, oh man, like this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm like, again, I was like, man, he has to be watching or listening to my show, because he's saying exactly what I said a few moments ago. So and for you guys who are just hopping in here, I realize I have a few more people in here that I had before. So if you're just joining us, I'm B+. Hello. I have the opportunity of hosting a radio show on Holy Culture Radio. And I talked about a topic on Saturday, and then on Sunday at my church, they talked about it and it was like it lined up perfectly. So what I want to do here in a second is I want to play the halftime pep talk from my radio show. So, another side note: my radio show, I break it into 4 quarters: first quarter, second, third, and fourth quarter. Because I'm a sports person, I love basketball. I love all sports. And in the middle of my show, I have what I call a halftime pep talk, and that's where I talk about like really like whatever the Lord puts on my mind. I still write Bible studies even though I don't have anywhere to teach them, and sometimes they end up on the halftime pep talk. Or if something's going on in Christian hip hop culture, I'll talk about that. If something's going on in general pop culture or Christian culture, I talk about it as well. So during my halftime pep talk let me minimize this really quick. During my halftime pep talk last Saturday, I told a story about how I went to. Well, actually, I'm not gonna say what I did. I'm gonna actually just play it for you guys here, and I'm gonna try to minimize myself. It's about 8 minutes long. It's about 8 minutes long, but it's interesting and it's better than me retelling the story there. So sorry, I'm multitasking. Actually, I have a question. So let me throw this up on screen and see if I have an answer. So it says the Bible said, "Comfort them." Question: how does this comforting occur? To me, comfort entails listening and more listening. And if you are capable, offer some suggestions or listen to their suggestions. So very well put. Very well put. I think a lot of times we do comfort people just by listening. I get to get away with it. Like Donna Field said, that's my mom for you guys that don't know. So you do get to you get the gift of just lending an ear, and not always feel like you have to have an answer. A story that I often talk about when it comes to empathy or feeling like the believers need to correct people or have an answer is the story of Job. His friends were just trying to find a reason, like, you did something, fam, and we're gonna find out what you did, and if you can just repent of that, things will be fine. It's just like, no, just sit there and just listen. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's listen to my halftime pep talk from last week, and then you'll be able to see and connect the dots of why I was tripping last Sunday, because this was last Saturday. So let's go ahead and get the sharing going, and let's do it. B plus, you are tuned. Let's try that again. Here we go. Holy Culture family, welcome back to the show. It's B plus. You are tuned into the Be Positive Music Show, and let's talk about that second quarter set so we can go ahead and hop into our halftime pep talk. So the second quarter again was a set, and sorry for y'all having to look at my face twice. I know it's only a few people who like to look at my face twice. It's probably my mom and my wife and my kids. But so sorry, and it looks like I got the same thing on, but I promise you it's a different shirt. I have more clothes and I have more hats than this. So let's keep going. Themed around the idea of being holy. So the first song that I played was by DKG Kai. I had to slow down because I always mess up his name. DKG Kai. Last part of his name is spelled K-I-E. The name of the song was Holy, Huh?
Oh, you holy, huh? Pull up to the church like what it do. Oh, you holy, huh? Proverbs 31, you can't lose. Oh, you holy, huh? Bag.
The next song that I played was Still Holy.
Still holy.
In the dark, in the light, messed up, got right. In the day, in the night, no change. It's smoke forever.
And that was by Indie Tribe. You know the whole crew. That's No Big Deal. That's Mowgli the Iceberg. That's DJ Mike LV. That is John Keith. And the latest member, Tory Deshawn, he was making his debut on that particular song. And then the third song I played was So Holy.
We so holy, walking different. We so holy, walking different. We so holy, walking different.
And that was by A3 featuring Romar Jesse. So that was our second quarter set, and now it is officially time to get into our halftime pep talk. And actually, I'm gonna stop it right here really quickly. Hold on, let me give one quick shout out. Abby, thank you for stopping by. Said she got to head out. Hope this is safe so I can come back and listen. This topic is near and dear to my heart. Yes, it will stay up. I won't disable this live after it's over. So thank you for being here. And speaking of people being here, if you are here, please leave me a comment, whether you are on YouTube, whether you are on Twitter or whether you're on Twitch. Leave me a comment. Let me know where you're listening from. And yeah, I'll give you a quick shout out again. If this is your first time popping in, I just played a snippet from last Sunday at church. And now I'm playing a snippet from last Saturday where last Saturday where I gave a testimony about my issue. Well, not my issue, but like a testimony about mental health in my own life. So that's what we're picking up now. Take a quick listen to this story. And last week, if you listened to the show, I talked a little bit about how I found myself in a little bit of a fog. Felt myself in a little bit of like a creative block. Really wasn't finding a whole lot of joy, quite frankly, in my YouTube channel, doing the show, at work, at home. I just kind of felt myself kind of in a fog, and I kind of talked about how I had to pull myself out of that by just reminding myself of the difference between having joy, and being happy. So, and I was a little bit vulnerable. So I felt like, well, number one, it felt good to be like that. And I figured, hey, let's do it again this week. So this week, John MacArthur kind of made some waves on the internet. And he was talking about a variety of things. And I've heard him talk about this before about mental health. He's not a fan of it. Maybe he doesn't think it's real. But in this particular clip, he was talking about how OCD, PTSD, and ADD, ADHD, basically like that they're not really real. I don't want to misquote them. You guys can go look it up to get the full context. But that was the takeaway, and that's what he was articulating. And this isn't the first time he's had these kind of takes around mental health. So I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit because I myself have not been diagnosed with ADD. And I don't like self-diagnosis because you can do that and not really, it's just not a good thing to do that. I went through a period of time where I want to go through the process of doing some exploring and actually seeing if it's something that I do struggle with. But I guess I'll just say this. About 9 years ago, I kind of started seeing some patterns in my life, and I started doing some reading around some of those patterns, things that kept landing me in a position of not having a job. After about maybe 2 or 3 years in a position, either I was burnt out and I didn't want to be there anymore, or they were sick of me and they wanted me out, or anything in between. Found myself in unemployment lines, things like that. So I started looking at myself and saying like, okay, what am I doing wrong? What is factoring into me making or finding myself in the same position? So, and I stumbled across an article about adult ADD, and I stumbled across a podcast, and I started listening to it, and then that led me down another rabbit hole, which are sometimes symptoms of having ADD, all these rabbit holes, and I started seeing that a pattern in my life, and life started really making sense, seeing it through this lens of ADD, and in particular, there is a podcast, it's called, let me see if I can find it. It's essentially called Adult ADD Tips and Support, something like that. If you do the Googles, you'll find it. So, and I believe he has a faith background. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he talked about it in a way where it wasn't like there's a need for medicine. It was a holistic approach. They look at ADD being like a neurological type versus being like some disorder. And I don't have the hyper side of this whole spectrum. It's more just like on the attention side of things. So I know I'm rambling, but I promise you it's gonna kind of make sense. It's gonna kind of make sense just because a lot of our favorite musicians, athletes, a lot of entrepreneurs that are really killing it right now, they all have ADD or suffer from ADD. So I bring all this up because I remember about 8 or 9 years ago, like I said, when I started kind of doing some research around this, and I remember it was just a rough time, and I felt myself hitting that wall again. And I just really started thinking like, man, like what is going on? And I remember being at church, and one of the elders approached me and just asked me how I was doing. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance and tell him like what's actually going on in my life. And I started telling him about like life patterns and things like that, and just kind of walked him through a whole lot of things. And his response was, the devil is a lie. You don't have no ADD. There's no such thing as ADD. Let's pray about it right now. And he prayed, and I remember standing there like, I was telling you about my history of life and things like that, and you just skipped over all that and just wanted to skip straight to prayer, which is cool because I believe that God can snap his fingers and help me in that area. But at the same time, it's like there's a lot of advantages of to being kind of wired this way. I'm very creative. I never thought of myself as being a creative until here recently. But the mere fact that a lot of stuff that I do with my YouTube channel, a lot of that self-taught, all the green screen work that I do, DJing, even everything that I do is self-taught, just because I go down a rabbit hole and I just kind of learn how to do stuff. I learned just by doing. So I don't want to like get rid of how my brain is wired. I want to learn how to work through it. And going back to that podcast, I feel like that podcast was one of the things that really helped me do that. I got to start seeing, well, I was able to see some of the patterns in my life where, because I think I mentioned on the show, if you're a regular listener to my show or anything that I do, I mentioned that I played college basketball, and I remember thinking back through my life I always felt my schoolwork was always better in season when I was busier. When I had more time on my hands, I feel like I struggled more. Some of the most, I guess, when I was able to make it through college, I feel like a lot of that was just because of the regular diet that I had to keep up with being a college athlete. I mean, you're working around the clock to make sure that you're on top of your game and also that you're on top of your schoolwork. So having good diet, and this is what the podcast really talks about. It talks about having a good diet. It talks about having a good time for prayer and meditation. It talks about just a lot of holistic things that help you train your brain. And it's all centered around dopamine. And I don't want to go down the whole rabbit hole. But if you guys are interested in that, definitely go check out the podcast. So I say all that to say that don't over spiritualize some of these things. A lot of times we just want to kind of rush people past something that you maybe have never experienced, or just kind of want to minimize things that other people go through. So don't do that. I don't think that's a good idea. And this the whole idea that mental health is not a real thing. It's mind blowing to me. And what I want to do during this third quarter set is just play some music that kind of highlights some of the things that we may go through in life that causes anxiety, because it is a real thing. Depression is a real thing. PTSD is a real thing. ADHD, OCD is a real thing. And being able to process that in the right environment can really help and set you up to be on the right path. So this first song that I want to play is entitled Family Photo. It is by Andy Mineo. It's a very, very dope song. Once again, this is the Be Positive Music Show, and you guys keep it locked right here. All right, and welcome back. So if you are still listening and you have been watching from the beginning of this video, you can see why last Sunday morning, as Dr. Tim was preaching and teaching, why like the confirmation bells were ringing in my head, and I was just like, man, like this is really dope, the way like what I'm currently going through right now, what I'm currently sharing on my ministry platform, which is my radio show, that I'm getting that kind of confirmation there at church. And it just made me think, like, why is it that we don't understand that things like medicine, or I'm going to speak about therapy and counseling myself, just because I've done some therapy, some counseling. I currently have a couple coaches, like life coaches. One is like kind of more high level. So shout out to BJ Thompson. He's like more like 30,000 foot view. Like, how do you see your year? And then I have like a day-to-day coach that I work with, just like on a month-to-month basis as well. So having insight, and I think that therapy can kind of be looked at as the same way. Like it says that we're to bear one another's burdens in God's word, and I think that therapy is a way of doing that. And a lot of times should I say it? I guess I will say it. I think that a lot of times within the church, sometimes we look at our pastor, especially at smaller churches, we look at our pastor as our financial advisor, as our realtor. We look at him as our doctor, as our counselor, as our marriage counselor, as our person who gives us advice on how to raise our kids, on our career choices. Like, you can literally go all the way till I run out of fingers. Like, that's what we sometimes expect our pastors to be to us, but he or she is not an expert in all those areas. They just aren't. especially when it comes to things like, sorry to say it, but especially when it comes to things like marriage. It's and especially like raising kids, things like that. It's like it's best sometimes to go talk to somebody who's going to school to do it, and somebody who has a lot of years under their belt of helping people with that particular issue. So I really just want to share with you guys, just like, man, like it's a great thing to be in community and to have like that confirmation, just across different platforms of how of how you minister. And there was one other thing that I want to bring up. Oh yeah, so the current sermon series that we're in at Embassy City is called "Do You Mind?" And I thought that was just a really it's a double entendre, might even be a triple entendre of just like how do like do you mind? It's like, do you mind if we talk about mental health, and also like, do you mind? Kind of using mind as a like as a verb. Like, do you mind? Like, do you like actually like work on your mind? And the reason why I say that is I'll just kind of borrow from Tim what he was saying when he introduced this sermon series. Like, oftentimes when we hear somebody say that they are that they're a believer, sometimes we do try to measure like, okay, like what type of believer are you? What type of Christian are you? What type of follower of Jesus are you? And we do that by a lot of like, as he put it, do you statements. Like we ask like, do you give? Do you serve? And I'm getting ready to cough, so hold on one second. I couldn't hit the mute button in time. One second. Much better. So we ask like things like, do you give? Do you serve? Like, do you pray? And if you do pray, how do you pray? Oh, I bet you don't fast. Do you fast? Do you read your word? Do you not only read your word, do you study your word? Like, do you go to church? How often do you go to church? So a lot of times when people are, like we said, when you find out somebody is a believer, we do that whether you're at the gym, whether you're at work, no matter where you're at. But it's not so often that we ask somebody like, how is your mind? Like, do you mind well? Like, do you have clean thinking? Are you constantly I don't know what's going on with my throat right now, but like, are you thinking well? Do you have a lot of stinking thinking going on? Like, are you constantly like, if somebody walks past your desk, you're just kind of like, oh, or like your boss walks past, are you thinking like, oh my gosh, like, did I get this done? Are you constantly like paranoid? Are you constantly like worrying? And there's a level of worrying, there's a level of anxiety that's normal. Like, your body's supposed to have anxiety. Like, if I'm sitting here live right now and somebody like police bangs on my door right now, like, my heart rate and things should speed up. It happened the other day. My kids are shout out to my kids. They were getting ready early in the morning, and they hit their they were trying to put some water in their water bottles for school, and like the ice machine, it must have hit the ground, or the ice hit the ground in a weird way and set off the alarm in the house. So it's loud, and me and my wife are flying down the stairs. It's like, your body is made to regulate. Well, not to regulate. What's the word I'm looking for? Your body is made to react in a certain way to take care of it, to survive. And I feel like when it comes to the mind, sorry, my throat is killing me, y'all. One more sip. One more sip. That was a good one. I think that fixed it. So what was I saying? See, this is what I'm talking about. My brain would just lose stuff, and it's very slippery. 1 second, it'll come back. It'll come back. Yeah, like when it comes to like, are you taking kind of an inventory of like how your mind is working? And I feel like that's probably a question we should ask a whole lot within Christian circles. I believe Dr. Tim said that the word mind is mentioned like 150, 60, or 170 times in the Bible. And that's like 90 of that is like in the New Testament. And those numbers may be wrong because I'm going completely off of memory. However, it's like it's something that we should probably think about. No pun intended. It's something that we should take inventory over. It's just like, how are we thinking? How are we thinking? Are we constantly thinking about the worst case scenario? Are we constantly thinking about the best case scenario? Sometimes we can be too optimistic. So just like, how do you mind? Yeah, so I just want to share with you guys a little bit about how my world kind of collided last weekend. It was a wonderful thing. I'm happy that the Lord kind of gives you like little nudges in that way. Because if you follow the radio show, a week ago, I was sitting behind this. I was talking into this mic, sitting behind this camera, just really talking about how, like, man, like I haven't been feeling motivated lately. I've been feeling like do I need to take a step back? Need to take a break? And I shared that, and then I ended up talking about in that halftime pep talk about the difference between having joy and just happiness, and it really helped pull me out of that season that I was in. And then the following week, this happened. So just God giving me a nice nudge in the right direction. So yeah, so that's what I have for you guys. I guess I am just gonna go ahead and call this some positive news, SPN. So as often as I feel led, I'm gonna hop on here on Fridays and just maybe share a little bit about what I have going on, or like just maybe sharing a podcast that I listen to. 'Cause I listen to a lot of podcasts. I may even start. I'm reaching over here. One of my favorite books right here by the Jackie Hill Perry, Holier Than Thou. Maybe I'll just go through here and find a highlighted portion and talk about that. So yeah, so I want to be a good steward of the platform that God gave me. That's one thing that I really prayed about at the start of this year. And I really want to do a good job of stewarding this platform. I'm just a stage-hands. Whatever God wants to do on this platform, I'm going to bring that person to the stage. That's what the Lord kind of showed me as I started this year with the fast. So if you do follow the radio show, I hope to have more interviews. I hope to reach out to more artists. And I hope to just just really hope to promote positivity, promote peace. Like I said, a lot of times in these Christian YouTube streets, people be wilding, and they are nothing more than an ambulance, and they are just chasing the next disaster, or they're just sitting there in a white van outside of Transformation Church waiting for Mike Todd to do the next thing so they can make a video about it. No shots fired, but I feel like we can be doing more. I've been sitting back, not creating a whole lot, because I'm so, like I said, I don't like talking into the mic. I don't like sitting behind this camera. I don't like those things, but I feel like God's giving me this platform and he's asking me to do this in this season. So I'm going to do it. I'm not going to I just can't sit back and complain about it and want things to be better. I'm going to get on here and share some positive news. So breaking news. I guess I have somewhat of like a new or recurring show, SPN. So so blessed to have you guys here. Hope all this made sense. Make sure you tell a friend about what we have going on over here, and I'm going to do some quick church announcements. So follow me over on Twitter. I can be found at DJ_B_plus. A lot of what happens on Twitter actually transfers over to what happens on my radio show. In fact, last Friday, I tweeted out about Christian hip hop songs that are around the topic of mental health, and man, the fans blew up that comment section. So my entire show tomorrow is highlighting some of the songs that the fans brought up. So that's what's going on over there. If you want to go over to IG, same handle at DJ_B_plus. One of my favorite things in the world to do is blending. Doing blends, doing mashups is what people call them. I like calling them blends because it works for the alliteration. B plus blends. So I like merging two different worlds. So I like taking like gospel music and mixing it with like trap music, or like boom bap music and trying to mix it with like, I don't know, like Maverick City or whatever. So I do a lot of that over on IG. You're here on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, like, hey, what do you have to lose? Go ahead and do that. So, and then I will say this: I take money. I have some plans of things I want to do as far as interviewing some artists, things I want to do as far as hooking up with some people here in town to do some fun listening parties around albums, around topics just like this, where we can just sit down and talk about like do this kind of live, like just pull up, pull up some other Christian hip hop fans, and we talk about a particular topic through songs, and we just kind of break things down. So, but those things are going to cost money to do that. So, yeah, that's what I got. I'm so I'm so appreciative of you guys being here. Like I said, I don't like going live, but hey, we out here, we gonna do it. So, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys, and yeah, I'm gonna holler at you guys. Maybe next week, maybe not. I don't know how often I'm gonna do this, but I'm having a good time, and it's definitely stretching me, and I'm using the new muscle. So so until next time, you guys, peace in, confusion out, and be positive.